Chair call to order the October 12th Board of Zoning Adjustments meeting. Secretary, please call the roll.
Johnny King.
Here.
Brandon White.
Here.
Barry Holder Jr.
Here.
Shannon.
Here.
Margaret Townsley. Here. Ashley Kennedy.
All right.
Have a quorum.
Chair will entertain a motion to approve the August 10th meeting minutes as amended and the September 14th minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
And I'll second that.
I'll second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed say nay.
Aye.
Minutes are approved. Staff, do you have any items?
Yes, sir. You will see the young lady by the name of Michaela is on the meeting tonight. She is a planner with the Bluegrass Area Development District. Due to a conflict of interest with county staff and applicant, Michaela Gary will be presenting item number 2 on your agenda.
Okay. Secretary, please call the first item.
In accordance with sections 155.085, 155.105, and 155.146 of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances, Bluegrass Canoes doing business as Canoe Kentucky is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a kayak and canoe water trailhead launch and pickup parking on the property located at 3866 Georgetown Road. The property is more specifically described as property valuation number 094-10-02-002.00.
Staff, will you please present the item? Ben.
Good evening. So tonight we have a conditional use permit request for property off of Georgetown Road, 3866 Georgetown Road. Present zoning of the property is limited commercial. The subject site is located in the Forks of Elkhorn area in eastern Franklin County along Georgetown Road. There is presently one structure on site. It was formerly part of the old Buck Run Church. Throughout my report, I have all positive findings. I would like to note that there is no direct access to this site, but there is some comments that were provided by the Transportation Cabinet and the county engineer referencing that an entrance could be granted if the adjacent lot were to vacate one of their entrances. Also would like to add that's not in my report. I did get a comment from the Planning Commission's traffic engineer who said that he missed my email and didn't get a response in time for me to provide it in the report. But he says, and I'll read here, he says, I do not see this generating enough traffic to warrant any additional traffic analysis. So with that, I was satisfied with that comment. I am recommending approval with the following 5 conditions. 1, the conditional use is only permitted at 3866 Georgetown Road. 2, the conditional use is granted only to Bluegrass Canoes doing business as Canoe Kentucky to allow the use of the property for a kayak and canoe water trailhead launch and pickup parking. 3, the conditional use is not transferable, and any change in ownership or use will make the approval null and void. 4, any required approvals from the Kentucky Division of Water, if applicable, will apply. And then 5, the applicant did have on their site plan a couple of portable structures, and I would recommend that those be removed prior to flooding events. And with that, I'd like to enter my report into the record. I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have for me.
Any of the board members have any questions for Ben?
Mr. Chair, I do have a question. Yeah, Mr. Judah, I had seen things kind of touched on it in your report, and application from the applicant. I'm just interested in knowing what was involved as far as the safety requirements for this type of business. And I know we're not approving the business per se, but I'd just be interested to know, for the record, how that aspect of it has been addressed.
Sure, and I might let the applicant speak to more how their operation would meet safety standards. But on the site plan that they've provided us, they do have a portable structure that would house safety equipment like life vests and safety jackets and things of that sort. And so I don't know if we have any safety requirements in the zoning ordinance per se that we would have to hold the applicant to. Hopefully that answers your question.
It does, and I will welcome information from the applicant on that as well.
Hi, this is Captain Nathan Deppenbrock. I'm one of the owners of Canoe Kentucky. I appreciate the question about the safety aspect. We do operate a very safe operation. We've been in business as of 2021 for 40 years this year, and we have an impeccable safety record. We've been operating on the Elkhorn Creek those entire 40 years out of our primary location in Peaks Mill. And we've been operating a secondary location in downtown Frankfort for the past 15 years. And again, our safety record is impeccable. We were very closely involved with local leaders, local law enforcement, Fish and Wildlife, federal Fish and Wildlife, and Beam Suntory, and were very instrumental in assisting in getting the Jim Beam Dam removed this year. And that created a much stronger element of safety on this stretch of creek. With that said, our intent with this access is to not run hard shell canoes and kayaks out of the access. We feel at this time that would not be the proper thing for the general public. We are planning on renting inflatable rafts and inflatable kayaks from this location, which we feel in our professional experience is the most applicable and the most safe way to continue down. So if there's any other questions about that and our safety, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Thank you, Captain.
Does anyone have any more questions for Ben? All right. And
Yeah, I do. Brandon, I do. It's Margaret.
okay.
Yeah. Hi. Ben, would you just explain to me? I was a little bit puzzled about the question of the very first one, 155.105, the street and road capacity and conditions is adequate to serve anticipated additional traffic. And the very last part of that paragraph says, if an encroachment permit were to be applied for, and one of the two entrances is 3894 Georgetown Road is removed. Can you just explain that to me, please?
Sure. So
is that being addressed? Okay.
Yes, so the Transportation Cabinet has reviewed this request and the next item on the agenda. And with the comment that should be in this report from the Cabinet, they state that access would be granted, which would be the encroachment permit part of it, if one of the existing entrances on the adjacent site were to be vacated or removed. And so I do actually have an email that I received from the adjacent property owner. He'll be hearing from later this evening, and I'd just like to read that email if I could. They say, this is from Andrea Wilson Mueller. We are totally fine with CKY kayak launch, but would like to point out that they need to add their own driveway, which they're aware of. There is no easement on our property for them to access theirs. So, with that statement from the applicant, from the next item, they seem like they want this location to be granted that access. So all the applicant would need to do is contact the Transportation Cabinet and apply for an encroachment permit. And if the adjacent one is removed, they will be granted access.
Great.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you for covering that. It does. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Deppenbrock, was that the entirety of your presentation, your case?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Would anyone else like to speak? Andrea?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Anyone on the board like to make a motion?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Before you do that, somebody probably needs to ask the question of whether or not the applicant agrees with the conditions inside the staff report.
Okay. Applicant, do you agree with the conditions in the staff
Yeah.
report?
Yes, we do.
Okay. Any other members like to make a motion?
Let's see. Mr. Chair, I will make a motion on this request. Based on the staff report of all positive findings and in accordance with section 155.085 and 155.105 and 155.146 of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances, I recommend that we approve of the request by the Bluegrass Canoes doing business as Canoe, Kentucky, this request for a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a kayak and canoe water trailhead launch and pickup parking on property located at 3866 Georgetown Road, Frankfort, Kentucky, with the following conditions. And let's see, those conditions are the conditional use is only permitted at 3866 Georgetown Road. The conditional use is granted only to Bluegrass Canoes, DBA Canoe, Kentucky, to allow the use of the property for a kayak and canoe water trailhead launch and pickup parking. The conditional use is not transferable, and any change in ownership or use will make this approval null and void, and any required approval from the Kentucky Division of Water, if applicable. The portable restroom and portable building within the flood zone must be removed prior to the flooding events.
Second that motion.
Secretary, please call the roll.
Mr. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Holder,
Yes.
Ms. Townsley,
Yes.
Mr. White.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right. Secretary, will you please call the second item?
In accordance with sections 1.155.085, 155.105, and 155.146 of the Franklin County Code of Ordinances, Andrea Wilson Mueller, Emma on the Creek, is requesting approval of a conditional use permit to allow the operation of a kayak and canoe water trailhead launch and pickup parking located at 3894 Georgetown Road. The property is more specifically described as property valuation number 094-10-02-001.00.
Michaela, will you please present the case?
Yes. Are you guys able to hear me okay?
Mhm.
All right. All right. The subject property is currently zoned CL, limited commercial. It's located just adjacent to the previous application that you guys heard along Georgetown Road. It currently has 2 existing accesses on the site. It also has 2 existing paths that go down to the river that the applicant can use for launch, for the trailhead launch. It was previously part of the Buckround Church, so there's approximately 70 parking spaces on the site, and the formerly run church, which as of now is vacant. For the analysis, I did have all positive findings, so I won't go through all that for you guys, but with that, I am recommending approval of the applicant's request for the conditional use permit with the following 8 conditions. 1, the business license is required from the county. 2, the conditional use is only permitted at 3894 Georgetown Road. 3, the conditional use is granted only to AMA on the Creek to allow the use of the property for kayak and canoe water trailhead launch and pickup parking. 4, the conditional use is not transferable, and any change in ownership or use will make this approval null and void. 5, any required approvals from the Kentucky Division of Water, if applicable, 6, any changes to the existing entrances must be approved by KYTC. 7, I am going to recommend a slight addition to this one. I had some thoughts about it after I submitted my staff report, but I would recommend, if the board does want to choose to approve this application, that 7 reads: the existing restroom facilities on the subject property are not to be available for use of the public users of the site unless approved by the health department. So I am recommending that you just add on unless approved by the health department. There's some current concerns about the septic on site being used by the public, but I think the applicant's trying to work with the health department on that, and that may change in the future. So I just don't want to limit that with that condition. And then number 8, structures within the flood zone must be anchored. Does anyone have any questions for me?
I've got a question. It's Margaret Townsley.
Okay.
Great. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. There's a question about access for the water trucks. Sorry, I'm flipping through my pages here.
Yeah. Within the TRT
Yeah.
comments. Yeah. The
Yep.
applicant is working with the water company to address that issue. It's something that the applicant is working on a minor development plan. I think they're going to make some slight adjustments, potentially remove one of the entrances that are existing and to add some additional parking. Just making some minor changes of that sort, which would require a minor development plan. And on that development plan, it sounds like she emailed me earlier this week to say that they are planning on putting the access easement in with that minor development plan, but she might be able to speak more to that than I can, but that issue is working on being addressed.
Yeah,
Thank
so
you.
I'm sorry.
No, go on.
Yeah, okay, just to add to that, yes, I spoke with Dale Gatewood of the Elkhorn Water District, and he just needed to make sure that there was 12 feet of access, and there is currently 12 feet of access, and there will remain to be 12 feet of access. So there's no access issue there.
Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you're welcome.
More questions for Michaela? All right, applicant, will you please present your case?
I really feel that there should be canoe kayak launch in this area because the existing launch that was just across the street, the parking was close to that. It creates a safety hazard because there is literally nowhere else to put in at the creek in this area. A lot of the avid kayakers from Bluegrass Wildwater and American Whitewater use that area quite a bit. And they're very grateful to us for allowing them to park on our lot. And currently they're having to cross the street so they can park on our lot currently under the existing codes, but they're having to cross the street after they park. And there's really not a safe way to cross the street. There's really not even sidewalks, and the sidewalk on the bridge is really dilapidated. So anyway, I definitely believe that this is necessary for our community and for the boating community. And that's it.
All right. Anyone have any questions for the applicant?
I've got a question.
Go ahead, Barry.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, just wanted to ask Ms. Mueller if she is agreeable to the conditions that were entered into the staff report.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
That was my same question. So Barry handled that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitch.
Anyone else wish to speak on the item? All right, Chair will entertain a motion.
I'll be glad to, Mr. Chair.
Okay,
I move for the approval by Andrea Wilson Mueller, the approval of the conditional use permit to allow operation of a kayak and canoe water trailhead launch and pickup parking located at 3894 Georgetown Road, Frankfort, Kentucky 40601, and the conditions that were entered into the staff report and entered into the record as well. Did you want me to read those again? She has already read those. I'd be glad to though.
Terry, can you add the unless approved by the health department on number 7? I think that's the only thing that would really need to be in the staff into the record.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah,
I'd be glad.
currently we're not planning on providing restrooms because it's not required. And actually the property next to us shares on the septic system. So they're also aware of this issue, or they may not be aware of the depth of this issue, but yeah, no one will be using the septic system.
Well, I think it's best, Barry, to include in your
Sure.
motion what Michaela said about number 7, just to have it in the record.
Yeah, and I think that's it, unless, pardon me, it was a less
Approved by the health department.
Yes.
I'll second that motion.
All right, Secretary, please call the roll.
I'm sorry, I didn't catch who did the second.
Mitch.
Mr. Buchanan, thank you. All right, Mr. Buchanan,
Yes.
Mr. King,
Yes.
Mr. Holder,
Yes.
Ms. Townsley,
Yes, and by the way, I think this is great use of that space. Thanks for doing this.
and Mr. White.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, Chair, entertain a motion to adjourn unless we have any further business.
Thank you all.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
I'll second.
Second.
All right. All right, we're adjourned, 5:53.
Thank you, folks.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.